All right. Go with the wind upon your back. Don't ever worry, just keep wandering that way. Brief is our time upon this earth. Don't underestimate the gift you have each day. And don't ever change, just be yourself. And don't burn your dreams for someone else. And cry if you wanna cry. And sing if you wanna sing. And love if you wanna love. You're all you got, and that's good enough. Now it's time you shine like all you can. I will go on. Now that my heroes are gone. Now silence fills my windowsills. My bedroom floors and dresser drawers don't seem the same. I search the dawn in all its glory for some meaning, but all I hear back is your name. They skipped a heartbeat on the street, and the world stopped shuffling their feet. So cry if you wanna cry. Sing if you wanna sing. And love if you wanna love. You're all you got, and that's good enough. Now it's time you shine like all you can. I will go on. Now that my heroes are gone. Just wanna thank you one last time, 'cause you lit a fire in my mind. So cry if you wanna cry, and sing if you wanna sing, and love if you wanna love. You're all you got, and that's good enough. It's time you shine like all you can. We will go on. Now that our heroes are gone.